As tensions escalate in the Israel-Hamas conflict, the economic landscape of Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon hangs in the balance. Warned by the IMF of potential instability, these nations face a pivotal moment. There could be some serious repercussions, but the question is, how serious? Keep watching until the end, because Gaza's neighboring countries are already facing challenges that may reshape their futures amid the unfolding crisis. Israel's evacuation order. Israel issued an evacuation order for over 1 million Palestinians in the north of Gaza to move south, according to the United Nations. This came as Israel positioned its defense forces at the border, hinting at a potential ground offensive. However, the UN has deemed it impossible for Palestinians to comply with the evacuation, as well as some severe humanitarian consequences. The Palestinian Refugee Agency has also warned that Gaza is on the brink of collapse, and Israel's evacuation order is seen as a strong indication of preparations for more ground offensive action to come, especially after the surprise assault by Hamas. Now, UN officials were informed by Israeli military liaison officers that the entire population north of Wadi Gaza, which is approximately 1.1 million people, should relocate to the south. But at the same time, the UN also considers such a massive movement unfeasible without consequences. Another important thing to note here is that Hamas dismissed the IDF's safe evacuation plan as fake propaganda. So, the UN has made an appeal for the evacuation order to be rescinded to prevent tragedy, and Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas rejected the forced displacement of Palestinians in Gaza, calling it a second Nakba. He emphasizes the need for humanitarian corridors to be immediately opened, just so they could prevent a disaster, but there will still be lives lost on both sides of the war despite all those efforts. International organizations stepping in. So, the Palestinian Red Crescent Societies made an urgent call for international intervention to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe, highlighting their inability to evacuate vulnerable individuals in hospitals. The World Health Organization also revealed that local health authorities in Gaza talked about the challenging situation of evacuating vulnerable hospital patients from northern Gaza within a 24-hour time frame. WHO spokesperson Tarek Jasarevic said that severely ill patients relying on life support, such as mechanical ventilators, face a dire situation if moved. The complexity of this scenario is described as beyond cruel when considering the impact on health workers. In the broader context, Israel has reported a total of 1,300 casualties since their raid started, and its troops are all gathered along the barbed wire fence, hinting at yet another ground offensive in Gaza. Israel's main focus is Hamas. Israel seems to be responding to a series of attacks on them by Hamas, including border storming and killings at a music festival, which led to hundreds of casualties. But the Gaza Health Ministry documented a total of 1,799 deaths on the Palestinian side, with at least 500 children and 276 women among the casualties. The number of wounded individuals exceeds 6,300. These figures highlight the gravity of the situation and the urgent need for humanitarian intervention in the region. Not to mention, white phosphorus is also being used, as reported by human rights groups. This is a substance known for its burning effects, and Human Rights Watch alleges that Israel deployed this chemical in both Gaza and Lebanon, pointing to verified footage from October 10th and 11th. The footage captures multiple airbursts of artillery-fired white phosphorus over Gaza City's port and two rural locations along the Israel-Lebanon border. Human Rights Watch urges that such actions violate international humanitarian law by putting civilians at unnecessarily high risk. However, Israel's defense forces have denied these allegations, categorizing them as unequivocally false and saying that they haven't used such munitions. But that didn't stop thousands from gathering in Tahrir Square in Baghdad to show solidarity with Palestine. Simultaneously, Jordan's King Abdullah responded to Israel's evacuation order as well, cautioning against any attempts to displace Palestinians forcibly, emphasizing the importance of preventing the crisis from affecting neighboring countries. This is because Jordan generally sustained peaceful relations with the Israeli government, with some occasional moments of tension because of this war. But the big question is, will the neighboring countries continue to face problems because of this war and eventually collapse like North Gaza? Stay tuned to find out. Potential chaos for Egypt, Lebanon, and Jordan. Amidst the escalating Israel-Hamas conflict, the economic challenges faced by Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon are drawing international concern. The International Monetary Fund warned in September that these countries could face a big loss of socio-political stability, a prediction gaining relevance as the conflict unfolds. The potential economic fallout is now catching the attention of world leaders and analysts who fear the repercussions could extend far beyond the region. It's important to note that even though the United States are Israel's biggest ally, the Biden administration committed to preventing the conflict from getting worse because they recognize the economic strains that may arise and the risk of governments collapsing in the process. To be fair, unchecked chaos could spread throughout a region that the whole world relies on for global oil supplies, so it could impact economies worldwide. The interplay between politics, economics, and the security is clear as day because everything is interconnected in this war. It's not just about Israel and Palestine anymore. In fact, Ajay Banga, the head of the World Bank, emphasized the precarious economic development situation, labeling it a dangerous juncture. To which Charles Michel, the president of the European Council, met with the IMF to highlight the need for more support for Egypt, especially since they are facing pressure from potential migrants and those fleeing a civil war in Sudan. The call to support Egypt reflects the urgency of preventing a humanitarian crisis. Besides, Egypt is heavily dependent on US economic and military assistance, so they are navigating a severe economic crisis, and with a high level of debt and recent downgrades from credit agencies, the country's stability hangs in the balance. Miret F. Mabrouk of the Middle East Institute's Egypt Studies program also chimed in, describing the situation as the worst economic crisis in decades that's complicating things in Egypt. After all, the potential loss of tourists could really hit Egypt hard. The country's historical sites, including the ancient pyramids, attract visitors globally. Tourism, along with foreign investment, is crucial for Egypt's access to the global economy. Clearly, the economic impact of the conflict extends beyond immediate geopolitical concerns. Jordan is also being affected. Jordan is also one of the victims of this war. Not only are they facing slower economic growth, but also less foreign investment, and more economic challenges could follow. Sure, their debt outlook is relatively healthier than Egypt's, with the double-digit unemployment rate adding to its economic problems. It's clear that the whole region's instability could make Jordan's situation worse. Lebanon isn't safe either, because they're already dealing with economic decline and their economy is shrinking. You see, the country's currency depreciation and failure to implement necessary reforms pose more challenges. The recent conflict threatens Lebanon's rebounding tourism industry, which is considered as their economic lifeline. Paul Salem, president of the Middle East Institute in Washington, warns that if tensions spread to the Gulf, the conflict's impact could severely affect international markets and struggling economies globally. Stick around till the end to find out how this could lead to a proxy war, a potential war with Iran. The recent conflict between Israel and Hamas has the potential to impact the world economy, possibly leading to a global recession if more countries like Iran become involved. The situation involves the death toll rising from attacks and airstrikes, with concerns that other militias in Lebanon and Syria supporting Hamas might join the conflict. A more significant escalation could involve Israel in direct conflict with Iran, who's a major supporter of Hamas. In such a scenario, there are estimates that oil prices could surge to $150 per barrel and global growth could drop to 1.7%, which could result in a potential $1 trillion reduction in world output. The world economy is already vulnerable and recovering from previous challenges, such as inflation triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Another conflict in an energy-producing region could reignite inflation, with implications ranging from unrest in the Arab world to effects in the US presidential election due to gas price fluctuations. The three possible scenarios. Economists have outlined three scenarios assessing the impact on global growth and inflation: confined conflict in Gaza and Israel, conflict spreading to neighboring countries, and direct military exchange between Israel and Iran. In each case, the effect will pretty much be the same: more expensive oil, higher inflation, and slower growth, with the magnitude increasing as the conflict gets worse. The actual risks and possibilities are complex, but the involvement of Hezbollah, an Iran-backed party and militia in Lebanon, adds to the risks, potentially turning the conflict into a proxy war between Iran and Israel. The question is, would the world be able to cope with the global rise in oil prices and higher inflation? And what are the chances of Iran stepping into the war? The potential triggers are alarming, but what do you think? In our upcoming videos, we will get deeper into the latest updates on the ongoing issues at a global narrative with multiple perspectives. Let us know in the comments and subscribe to our channel for more such videos.